Don't you dare get my hopes up like this. Welcome everybody to JG9 News, where we talk all things NFL all the time. I'm Jared Aronai, representing the 904 from the 602, and today we are talking about what the Jaguars could do at wide receiver, because obviously they lost out on Calvin Ridley yesterday. Long story short, if you've missed out on the Calvin Ridley saga, the Jaguars couldn't sign Calvin Ridley until 4 o'clock when the new league year started on Wednesday. It looked like they were the favorites the entire time. They were offering around $17 to $20 million a year for Calvin Ridley's services. Looked like he was coming back to Jacksonville, and then at the last minute, the Tennessee Titans swooped in and said, hey, Calvin, here's a 4-year deal worth $92 million and $50 million guaranteed. He took that deal, took the money and ran, which I don't blame him. It's probably his last chance at a big contract since he's on the wrong side of 30. And the Jaguars now need a wide receiver one. So we speculated, might they sign Mike Williams? Could they get someone in the draft? Well, now an interesting possibility has emerged, because according to multiple sources, the Jaguars are in on San Francisco 49ers wide receiver Brandon Aiyuk, and there is momentum building about this deal. According to Mia O'Brien, a very reliable reporter down in Jacksonville, I've been following her for years, Aiyuk interest is mutual between the Jaguars and his team, the 49ers, and his agency, per source, obviously very early. Dilla also said the same thing about Brandon Aiyuk possibly going to the Jacksonville Jaguars. He said that he's heard the same. Dilla, for those who don't know the Jaguars, he's a very, very reliable insider. He has a source within the building, and he is on top of things the moment it happens, before anyone even knows about it. He says they heard the same, and the black and gold team we hate so much, also interested in being the Pittsburgh Steelers, although according to Pretty Ricky, they might sign Tyler Boyd, so they might be out of it. If they do get Tyler Boyd, they might not be able to get Brandon Aiyuk, but Dilla is saying the same. And according to a Niners reporter for Chad Sports, Chase Sr., he's saying the Jaguars have interest in trading for Brandon Aiyuk, and the interest is mutual between Jacksonville and Brandon Aiyuk's camp. I mean, I don't even know what to say to this. I don't even know what to say to this. If this happens, this would be an unbelievable move, provided that you could sign him to a long-term deal. Obviously, Brandon Aiyuk will be a free agent after the 2024 season, but provided you can sign him to a long-term deal, yeah, this would be a phenomenal move. This would be an absolutely phenomenal move for a variety of reasons. First off, personally speaking, I wanted Brandon Aiyuk back in 2020. I went to Arizona State for law school to get my master's there. I was in the building when Brandon Aiyuk in 2019 had that game against Oregon, made that catch, the Jaden Daniels throw to Brandon Aiyuk. I knew this kid was special for a long time. I loved Aiyuk. I was like, he's a first-round talent. I was like, this guy is a top 3 receiver on my board. I had him higher than Henry Ruggs. I had CeeDee Lamb as my 1, Jerry Jeudy as my 2, and Brandon Aiyuk as my 3. Honestly, it didn't quite work out with Jeudy. I was pretty on the money with Lamb, but I had Aiyuk above Ruggs. I really wanted Aiyuk when the Jags had the 20th pick, but no, they have to take Caleb on Chason, who I don't even know where he's going to be playing next year. Might be playing in the UFL for all we know. I have no clue. But Brandon Aiyuk, potentially available now, about half a decade later, but this would be incredible. But besides the personal reasons, he improves the Jaguars so much if this were to happen. First off, the Jags were garbage in run blocking last year on the outside. It wasn't just Luke Fortner who was bad at blocking. I think there's a misconception that the Jaguars have had this offseason in terms of building their roster, where it's like, okay, we're going to keep everything the same, but we're just going to swap out one piece with Luke Fortner and bring in Mitch Morse. Yeah, Luke Fortner was terrible. No one is denying that. Luke Fortner was awful, but the tackle play, run blocking-wise, was not that good. The tight end blocking wasn't good. Wide receiver blocking wasn't good. We couldn't get anything going to the outside. Outside of that Travis Etienne run against the Carolina Panthers, I can't remember a single great outside run that the Jaguars had in all of 2023. Well, Brandon Aiyuk is one of the best blocking receivers in football. He fixes that immediately. You can run to the outside, actually have some success. But besides his run blocking ability, obviously, phenomenal receiver. Back-to-back seasons with 1,000 yards. In his 4 years in San Fran, 269 catches, 3,931 yards, so averaging about 1,000 yards a season, 25 touchdowns, and he was a second-team All-Pro last year. I don't know how he didn't make the Pro Bowl, but he was one of the best receivers in football last year. Actually, I shouldn't say I don't know how he did make the Pro Bowl, because there were so many great receivers on the NFC side of things in 2023. But Aiyuk would immediately become one of the best receivers in the AFC if this move were to happen. There's also some steam picking up besides just reporters. Brandon Aiyuk has started following certain Jaguars on Instagram. Now, Mitch Morse did the same thing. Gabe Davis did the same thing before they announced their signings, and they wound up in Jacksonville. So there is some precedent there that where there's smoke, there's fire. On top of that, Brandon Aiyuk, obviously, I wanted to bring Calvin Ridley back. Not at that price point, but I did want Calvin Ridley back. I'm not going to deny it. But obviously, Brandon Aiyuk is better. Brandon Aiyuk is better than Calvin Ridley, and he's younger than Calvin Ridley at 26 years old. So long as you immediately lock him up to a long-term deal, I don't care what the price is. I genuinely mean it. If you lock him up to a long-term deal, I don't care if you have to give a first-round pick. In all likelihood, it would be a second-round pick and some change. I don't care what you have to give up. Just get it done. Just get it done. Because here's the other thing. The Jaguars' biggest need right now is wide receiver one. I would have said interior defensive line, but Trent Baalke made a big move today, according to Ian Rappaport and Pro Football Focus and a few other sources, signing Arik Armstead, which is a move that I called a long time ago because Armstead was drafted by Baalke back in San Francisco, one of Baalke's only good draft picks with the 49ers. Jags had a big need there. They had the money, obviously, now that Calvin Ridley is no longer with the team, and they got that move done. I really like that. Solidifies the defensive line. Run game is going to be absolutely phenomenal next year. You swap out Fatukasi with Armstead. You swap out Rayshon Jenkins with Darnell Savage. You swap out some of these other guys, Luke Forner with Mitch Morse. There are definitely some improvements on the Jaguars, where the Texans and Titans have improved tremendously in this Raiders superiority, but the Jaguars have made some nice additions as well. But wide receiver one, obviously the biggest need. But do I trust Trent Baalke to draft wide receivers? No, I don't. There's no history there that shows that Trent Baalke is capable of drafting a wide receiver and knows what he's doing in that department. Listed here are all the wide receivers that Trent Baalke has drafted in his time as a general manager, either with the San Francisco 49ers from 2011 to 2016, or with the Jacksonville Jaguars from 2021 to 2023. Yes, he was the interim GM in 2020, but that was at the end of the season because Dave Cole was the GM to start the season off. Here's the list. It's not pretty. Ronald Johnson in 2011, 0 catches. A.J. Jenkins, 2012, the Illinois man. Remember him? One of the biggest busts in 49ers history. 17 catches, 223 yards, no touchdowns. First-round pick, did nothing. Quentin Patton in 2013, 73 catches, 880 yards, 1 touchdown. That's it. Bruce Ellington in 2014, 79 catches, 769 yards, 5 touchdowns. DeAndre Smelter in 2015, 1 catch for 23 yards. That was his entire career. Aaron Burbridge in 2016, 7 catches, 88 yards. And then in Jacksonville, Jalen Camp in 2021, 1 catch for 7 yards. The wide receiving unit in 2021 was abysmal for Jacksonville. They were playing guys like Laquan Treadwell. I don't want to disrespect Treadwell. He actually played all right in Jacksonville. Tavon Austin. They were playing just random guys in 2021. Jalen Camp couldn't make the roster. He never played in Jacksonville. His NFL career, 1 catch for 7 yards. And then Parker Washington, who I think is the best of the bunch, which is not saying a lot. I like Parker Washington. Don't get me wrong. He's solid depth. But when he's the best receiver that you've drafted in your decade or so as a general manager, something went horribly wrong. The Jags have a massive need at wide receiver one. Why take a chance with a GM that can't draft wide receivers when you can get a young wide receiver one who is maybe a top 10 wide receiver in football that solidifies that need and plugs all the holes you needed to in the offseason? You think the biggest needs the Jaguars had? Center, that's done. Interior defensive line, that's done. Safety, that's done. Wide receiver one, you get Aiyuk. Oh, that is more than done. You go into the season with Brandon Aiyuk. You go into it with Gabe Davis as your 2. Christian Kirk in the slot. You cut Zay Jones. Obviously, cap space at one workout to keep Zay Jones, which is not really a huge surprise. Again, I don't think anything changes even though Calvin Ridley's on the team in terms of Zay Jones' roster status. I'd be very surprised if he's on the roster in 2024. But if you have Aiyuk at wide receiver one, after filling up that interior defensive line need with Armstead and filling up that center need with Morse, you plugged all the holes you needed to. It gives you way more flexibility in the draft to go best player available and not be tied to positional needs. Granted, the Jags won't have a lot of picks to work with in all likelihood. If they do make this trade for Aiyuk, probably going to have to give up a second-round pick. I'm totally fine giving a first-round pick. I just want to make that very clear. I'm totally fine giving up pick 17 to the Niners for Aiyuk, as long as you can sign him to a long-term deal. It has to be like the Brian Burns situation with the Panthers and the Giants, where the Panthers trade him and the Giants immediately lock him up. I don't want Aiyuk playing on a 1-year rental. I do not want that whatsoever. But if the Jags can get Aiyuk, and there is smoke, there could be fire. If this happens, oh man, we're cooking. We're cooking with something. We are cooking with something good. But what are your thoughts? Do you think Brandon Aiyuk will become a Jaguar? What are your thoughts on the possibility of this trade? What would you give up on a trade for Brandon Aiyuk? And if you do sign him to a long-term deal, how much would you give him? Calvin Ridley got $23 million from the Titans. You figure Aiyuk probably about $25 million a year. I have no problem paying that. What are your thoughts on that? Let me know in the comments down below. That's going to do it for this episode of JG9 News. Be sure you like and subscribe. It helps the channel out a lot. And be sure to check out my main channel, JR 9, where we talk all things NFL history all the time. Until next time, this is JR 9 signing off. And as always, go Jags. Please, Baalke, get this done. I beg of you.